The other officer, a burly guy, chimed in. "Look, we can ask him to move along. But he'll probably just be back tomorrow. These guys, they find a spot." He shrugged. "Maybe," the woman officer suggested, her tone now slightly patronizing, "you could just give him a few dollars? Might be easier than calling us every day. He looks like he could really use it." I stared at them, incredulous. That was their solution? Give him money? I felt a surge of helpless anger. "So you're not going to do anything?" "We'll talk to him, sir," the burly one said, already walking towards the old man. "Tell him not to bother you. But honestly, there's not much more we can do." They had a quiet word with him. I couldn't hear what was said. The old man nodded a few times. Then the officers came back to me. "He says he won't bother you again, sir," the woman said. "Hopefully that's the end of it." They got back in their car and drove off. I looked at the old man. He was looking at me, that same empty, expectant gaze. He hadn't moved. The officer's intervention had done nothing. He was still here, waiting. A wave of defeat washed over me. They were right. What else could be done? I was stuck with him, defeated, frustrated, and just wanting it to be over. I reached into my wallet. I didn't have much cash, but I pulled out a 20. Not a lot, but not a little either. Enough, I hoped, to make him leave for good this time. Maybe enough for a decent meal, a warm place for a night. I walked over to him, held out the bill. "Here," I said, my voice flat. "Take it. And please, just go." His skeletal fingers, surprisingly nimble, plucked the 20 from my hand. For the first time, I saw something flicker in those clouded eyes. A glint, and his lips pulled back into that smile grimace, wider this time. It sent a shiver down my spine. He didn't say a word. He just turned, with that same slow, shuffling gait, and walked away. I stood there for a long moment, the spot where he'd stood feeling suddenly strangely empty. A profound sense of relief washed through me. Finally, it was over. He was gone. Maybe the 20 was all it took. Maybe he'd finally gotten what he wanted from me. The rest of the day passed in a blur of normalcy. I went to work, focused on my tasks. The constant background hum of anxiety I'd been living with seemed to have faded. I felt lighter. I actually ate a proper dinner that night, slept soundly for the first time in weeks. I woke up the next morning feeling heavy. Not emotionally heavy, physically heavy. My shoulders ached, a deep, burning ache, as if I'd been lifting weights all night. My neck was stiff. I groaned, rolling out of bed. Must have slept funny. I shuffled towards the bathroom, the ache in my shoulders intensifying with each step. Felt like I was carrying something substantial. I stretched, trying to work out the kinks, but the feeling persisted. A dull, crushing pressure centered right between my shoulder blades, radiating outwards. I reached the bathroom, flicked on the light, and looked in the mirror. And I screamed. It wasn't a loud scream, more of a choked, strangled gasp. My blood ran cold, colder than any chilled room in the mortuary. My heart hammered against my ribs, threatening to break free. There, in the mirror, perched on my shoulders, was the old man. He was sitting there, cross-legged, as if my shoulders were the most natural throne in the world. His skeletal legs were hooked around my neck, his hideously thin arms wrapped around my head, his gnarled fingers resting lightly on my temples. He was a dead weight, a grotesque, leering gargoyle, and he was smiling, that same wide, lipless grimace, but this time it was triumphant, knowing. His clouded eyes, reflected in the mirror, stared directly into mine. I whirled around, hands flying up to my shoulders, expecting to feel him, to grab him, to throw him off. Nothing. My hands met only my own skin, my own shirt. There was nothing there. I spun back to the mirror, heart pounding. He was still there, still perched on my shoulders, still smiling that awful smile. I could feel his weight. The crushing pressure was undeniable, real. My muscles were screaming under the strain. My spine felt like it was compressing. But when I touched my shoulders, there was nothing. He existed only in the reflection. And on my aching back, "Get off me!" I yelled, my voice cracking. I thrashed, trying to shake him loose, like a dog trying to rid itself of fleas. I jumped up and down. I spun in circles. Nothing happened. In the mirror, he remained perfectly balanced, his smile unwavering, his eyes fixed on mine. He didn't even sway. Panic, raw and primal, clawed at my throat. This wasn't real. Couldn't be real. I splashed cold water on my face. Looked again. Still there. I pinched myself hard. I was awake. This was happening. I tried talking to him, to the reflection. What do you want? Who are you? My voice was a desperate whisper. No response. Just that silent, knowing smile. His weight seemed to increase, pressing me down. I stumbled out of the bathroom, avoiding mirrors. But I could still feel him. That terrible, crushing burden. The girl. The young woman who'd carried a weight. Her slumped shoulders. The way her parents described her suffering. It hit me then with the force of a physical blow. This was her weight. This was what she'd been carrying. And somehow that old man, he was it. Or he was its conduit. And by giving him money, by engaging with him in that final transaction, I had taken it from him, or he had passed it to me. The relief I'd felt yesterday was a cruel joke. He hadn't just left. He'd transferred. I spent the rest of the day in a daze of terror and disbelief. Every reflective surface became a source of horror. A shop window, a car's side mirror, even the dark screen of my phone. Each time, he was there, perched on my shoulders, that terrible smile fixed on his face. And the weight, God, the weight was unbearable. Who could I tell? The police? They'd thought I was overreacting to a beggar. What would they say to this? They'd lock me up. My colleagues? My friends? They'd think I'd finally cracked under the strain of my job. I remembered the young woman's parents. No one believed her, they'd said. They said it was just a feeling. Now I understood. It wasn't just a feeling. It was real. And now it was mine. I don't know what to do. The weight is always there. And every time I catch my reflection, he's there too, smiling. Waiting. I think he's waiting for me to find someone else to pass this on to. But how? And who would deserve such a fate? I think this is a curse. A curse from that poor girl, or something that clung to her. And now it clings to me. The old man was just the ferryman. And there's no one in the world who will believe me. I'm carrying this alone, just like she did.